They say I'm cut off from the tree because I have not known my father or mother. I only know my great-grandmother. And the man she says is my uncle. But he is not my uncle. We walk.
Children are used on the lake to work as fishing boys. The work is meant for men, so it's not good for children to do. It's very hard work. I can say they are slaves. They use them as slaves.
A man came to our village looking for boys to work on his boat. He had money. My great-grandmother said I should go with his uncle and he would look after me. He took me to a place I didn't know. I was 6 years old.
They love the children. They try their best, but the byproduct of poverty, they don't know the consequences because the recruiters lied to them. And when you are poor, you are vulnerable.
The first time we went out on a boat, it was in the deep water. I was afraid. When the nets get caught, we dive down under the water. It is dark. I feel my lungs burn. Some boys say river monsters live in the deep and take small boys when they go under the water.
Have you ever wondered if your support makes an impact? Does your time and money truly make a difference? Are children actually being released from poverty? Since 1952, Compassion has been working to release children from poverty in Jesus' name. After witnessing the plight of children while ministering to troops during the Korean War, Reverend Everett Swanson had a vision to bring love and care to the most vulnerable children around the world. What began with just 35 children in 1952 has today grown into a global ministry spanning continents, bringing hope to over 2 million children living in poverty. Compassion's holistic child development program is delivered by local church partners throughout Africa, Asia, Central America and South America in over 25 countries, while a further 12 countries raise support for this ongoing work in the developing world. Together, this is the Compassion Neighborhood. From the pastors, teachers, center directors and country directors to the global partners around the world and you, our valued supporters, the Compassion story is one that speaks of a united effort in the fight against poverty.
Nama saya Santial. Anak saya 4 orang laki-laki. Mana bisa no aike warma alo tenu mana bisa urus. Atau dene siam sekolah. SMA ijazah ni dene daftar SD dai kelas 1. Anak yang pintar. Saya punya harapan dia jadi manusia yang baik. Supaya nama ibu, papa Dora, nama abung hoe nalami no tu no holo temi dumi amfi naba ai piralo mi dina so teta pala pan tara seyu alapi tapi ma ai piralo mi ne supui ala pa tara ai nama do rasanya susah karena bisa hulu jadi susah jadi kod warna taruh nih liye ma film dan di bana bisa hulu jadi susah.
Dan ketika saya melihat kondisi yang dialami oleh keluarga Alon, tentu kita tidak bisa tinggal diam. Keluarga ini perlu diberikan perhatian khusus. Keluarga ini perlu untuk ditolong. Keluarga ini perlu untuk dilepaskan dari penderitaan yang mereka alami. Tidak bisa dibiarkan dalam kondisi demikian.
Alor is a beautiful island, look like paradise, but actually people who live there, they do not live like in paradise. It's not easy. We change the mindsets, we put strong foundations in the first years of their life. I believe that if you start with children, you can change the generation, you can change the nations. The relationship with the sponsor is precious because someone else they don't know, they care about them. I see that God loves them the same as I am. It's life-changing if they have sponsor.
Children like Alon are the recipients of your incredible generosity, even in the most challenging circumstances. In a time where the world has continued to face growing social and economic challenges, God's provision through the generosity and love of supporters like you have allowed us to reach more children living in poverty than ever before. Your generosity has continued to make a huge impact, and it's more than just economic. The time you spend in advocacy, letter writing, and prayer have brought hope to the lives of children around the world. Since 1952, a total of 4.2 million children have been positively impacted through the support of Compassion's global neighbours. And this life-changing impact isn't just limited to the sponsored children. Often, the support extended to a single child has a compounding effect and results in breakthrough for their whole family and also their wider community. When you sponsor a child with compassion, your support ensures that our local church partners can care for children using a holistic model of child development. This impacts their spiritual, socio-emotional, physical, and economic growth. A significant part of this process includes the relational impact of the letters the child exchanges with you, their sponsor. The experience of poverty is riddled with lies about identity and birth. Poverty tells a child they are hopeless, worthless, and undervalued. So when a child living in poverty receives a letter which brings joy, encouragement, and hope, the impact is extraordinary.
হ্যালো, আমার নাম ঝর্ণা।
আমার নাম গাজী আলম।
আমার নাম তানজিম। তুমি ভালো থাকো, আমি ভালো আছি।
স্পন্সর বন্ধু হয়ে আমি খুব খুশি হয়েছি, তাই আমার বন্ধুকে অনেক ভালোবাসি।
স্পন্সর বন্ধু নিউজিল্যান্ডে থাকে।
তার কি ছেলে মেয়ে আছে কি নাই? তোমার দেশটা কেমন আমি দেখতে চাই।
দেখি অনেক আনন্দ লাগে এবং অন্যরেও দেখাই আমার স্পন্সর বন্ধুর ছবি।
আমি বড় হয়ে ডাক্তার হতে চাই,
ক্রিকেটার হতে চাই।
পরে আমার পুলিশ হওয়ার ইচ্ছা আছে।
আমি বড় হয়ে ম্যাডাম হতে চাই, ডাক্তার হতে চাই।
While stories give us an indication of the impact of the work being carried out, we also use objective measures to gather data and help us understand the effectiveness of Compassion's programs. This focus on research ensures that our programs are evidence-based and structured according to best practice, enabling our local church partners to provide the most effective care to children living in poverty.
The Monitoring, Evaluation, Research and Learning team is within Compassion to make sure that we are doing what we've said we're going to do and doing it as effectively as possible. 100 years ago, it was everybody needed food and water and, needed to start some education. And that was really obvious and easy. And now the world's just gotten much more complex. And so there's lots of different needs and lots of different ways to approach those needs. And so making sure that we look at evidence and that we know what the actual problem is and what the best ways to handle that problem are is really important. So Compassion works in child development centers, which are attached to a local church. And there's a project staff there that decides what they're going to do, what kind of curriculum they're going to run, what kind of program they're going to do when a kid walks in. So the data that we provide helps that person decide what they're going to do with the children that year. There's a lot of different things we could pick, right? So they get some education, some spiritual development, some youth agency, formation, well-being, physical development. And there's so many needs, deciding which one of those needs to pick and which one of those needs to really focus in on and how big those needs are and what we can do about them. That's what our data really helps the project directors do. And then at a national level too, how we reach children in El Salvador versus Rwanda, it's a little bit different. And so our research really helps those national offices and then program directors and local churches decide what kind of interventions they want to do, how to do them best, and really how to optimize the money that we have, the resources that are around. We have a certain amount of time with the kids and a certain amount of funding. And so, there's a lot of different things we could do, and it really helps us pick the best of those.
I grew up with what you would call abject poverty. I woke up in the morning and I had no idea when the next plate of food would come from. The absolute worst thing about poverty is the hopelessness. When I was sponsored, the church opened up for me. It was meeting the pastors there and the Compassion staff that was very instrumental, because these people became instant mentors and they started to speak life into my life. What opened up for me was opportunity to interact with all these people who, they had love, but also they spoke faith and spoke hope, which is something that I really needed. For me, it was a project director because she took a keen interest in each and every one of us. And that was beautiful to have somebody championing for you, on the sideline, telling you, keep going. There's hope, there's light. That was beautiful.
Owen has fulfilled his dream of becoming an accountant. He now lives in America and sponsors 3 children through Compassion. The local church and the relationships Owen formed there had a significant impact on his journey. Research tells us that relationships with both peers and adults are important for youth development. This is why our programs focus heavily on both these aspects. A recent survey found that 81% of children in Compassion programs report having a close peer to confide in, and 80% report that they have a trusted adult in their lives. Often, children can grow up with absent parents or with a lack of positive role models in their lives. Having a trusted adult to encourage, guide, and mentor them to become all they were created to be can make all the difference in the life of a child.
I think my parents were hoping that our fortunes would change by me going to school, but they couldn't afford to pay the school fees consistently. So I would be sent back home. One of those days when I was at school, we were told that we were going to get sponsors. Almost immediately, there were some gains that we could see. I got clothes, Christmas gift, we had food. Even more importantly for me was the fact that I knew then I had this one thing I could hold on, which was an education. I think what sponsorship did is to bring hope to a hopeless situation. We still stayed in the two-roomed house. I still stayed in the same village. I still went to the same school. And yet life looked so much more different. I don't think my sponsor knew the impact of her sponsorship to me. How inspiring she was, how when I read through her letters, I believed and held on to everything that she said to me. There's no way she could have known that I would turn out to be the person that I am now. But I'm so glad that she took that risk.
Today, Ronnie is an engineer and sponsors children in Uganda through Compassion. For youth in particular, achieving higher levels of education continues to be one of the best predictors of future livelihood, lifetime income, and advancement opportunities. This is why education is an important factor in all Compassion programs. We found that children who exited our programs in 2020 completed an average of 11.2 years of education, which is higher than the estimated global average of 7.7 years. Breaking the cycle of poverty means equipping children to reach their goals and dream for a better future. Education helps keep children safe from exploitation and opens the door to opportunities that would otherwise be out of reach for children living in poverty.
So my first memories are growing up in this neighborhood that was very dangerous. My dad really struggled a lot to provide for us. When I was 7 years old, we heard about the Compassion Project. As a girl, I wasn't sure that I was going to get education. I knew that if my parents were able to afford it, probably they would just do it for my older brother. Sponsoring is not really just affecting the kid. It really affects the entire family. Amy and Brian share their life with me. You think I would just send money every month. I mean, send a letter. But for me, it was just life-changing. I was born in poverty. I grew up in poverty, but God redeemed everything that the enemy was trying to rob. God just showed me, as time passed by, how He really had me in His hands.
Children living in poverty are especially susceptible to disease and sickness. This is why Compassion's programs include 2 health checks a year, as well as individualized attention and care from local staff and pastors. In addition, the Critical Needs Fund helps to cover expenses when unforeseen circumstances arise, such as accidents, disease, or the need for surgery. It means children in Compassion's programs can receive the specific care and treatment they need to thrive. Being healthy means being able to learn to read and write. Being healthy means being able to play with friends. Being healthy means being able to be more resilient in times of crisis. Being healthy means being able to face each day with hope for a better future. Karunia lives in Indonesia with her father and mother. For their family, this kind of medical support has been a lifeline.
Harapan saya menikah dan punya anak juga membahagiakan istri dan anak. Waktu Karunia lahir, saya berlutut dan saya berdoa, terima kasih Tuhan karena anak saya sudah lahir.
Dan waktu dia lahir itu memang kita belum tahu. Kita cuma berpikir ya memang kita senang sekali suka luar tuh adik karena memang kita panaku sekali.
Nia dilahirkan, kita lihat dia petangan lain. Memang kita sudah dapat tahu bahwa tapi anak memang cacat. Begitu perasaan memang hancur memang.
Nama saya Karunia, rumah saya Bengkudai Selatan.
Kalau memang tak aku dapat dengan Nia, ada yang memang bagara, kita cuma Nia cacat. Itu yang bikin kita memang tak apa-apa kok. Tuhan yang kasih toh. Bilang pada orang kalau dorang bagara itu Tuhan yang kasih, bukan siapa yang kasih.
I just always said that we need to receive every condition of life because God has a perfect plan for all mankind, for all of us. Karunia as one child from so many children in this area that have received the blessing of the Lord through this church and compassion.
Kalau dengan adanya PPA ini ya memang membantu. Kalau Nia yang sakit cuman diambil obat, ada dia pengembalian dari PPA.
Saya punya sponsor dan sponsor saya pembaik. Kita mau bilang terima kasih dengan sponsor pembaik. Saya suka dapat sudah dari sponsor.
Thanks to your generosity, children like Karunia have continued to be positively impacted through the support of Compassion's global neighbours. And in Indonesia, this support has been crucial. Indonesia is a lower middle income country in Southeast Asia, situated between the Indian and the Pacific Ocean. The country's population grew at an estimated annual rate of 1.3% in 2019, reaching a total of 270.6 million people, making it the fourth most populous nation in the world. In 2020, 9.8% of people in Indonesia lived below the poverty line. That's over 26 million people, which is more than the entire population of Australia. The global crisis caused by the COVID-19 pandemic has created unprecedented hurdles for Indonesia's development, both economically and socially. While local child development centres were closed throughout the pandemic to abide by government guidelines, Compassion's church partners have been working to support children and their families throughout these difficult times. With home visitations by staff and the provision of hygiene kits and food hampers, the local church has been making a difference on the ground. Handoko Nadiman, the country director for Compassion in Indonesia, tells us about the impact of COVID-19 and what gives him hope in the midst of these challenging circumstances.
I remember a few months ago when the pandemic is very high. As national director, I receive almost every day. Every day, people die. The pastor, the children, the youth, and a lot of their caregivers, and also the siblings. It's really put us at despair, emotionally. And I believe all of us, we have our own pressure in our life because of this pandemic. My choice is that, do I want to stop here? Because when you are in that situation, sometimes you lost your hope. You don't know what to do. And you don't have control anymore. Because there's so many deaths. There's so many people in sickness. The report coming again and again. It's not one report, one sickness. 5, 10, 20 happen for the whole family. But if I focus on that, I will be lost. And we ask question, can we make a difference? But that is what we call hope. That is what we call faith. But when you put your faith in God, you put your hope in God, and people, the believer, the body of Christ, encourage and support each other, pray to each other. And we see the light in the end of the tunnel. And we take small steps, and we see that God is with us. And we work together towards that, end that which is that we know that God has beautiful plan for the children and youth that we serve, for all of us. That is the hope.
Over 700 local churches provide support and care to more than 160,000 children all across Indonesia. These churches are included in over 8,000 churches in the developing world that partner with Compassion to impact more than 2 million children living in poverty. This is the Compassion story, and it is also yours. A story that encompasses a neighborhood comprised of supporters, sponsors, businesses, churches, ambassadors, advocates, families, and individuals. It is a collective impact made by many, coming together as one. Jesus commanded us to love our neighbors as ourselves, and every child is worthy of being known, loved, and connected in this way, regardless of where they were born. Through your support, you have become a good neighbor to children living in poverty around the world. And good neighbors leave an impact.
How many of you have seen a boat and a lake before? You see children going to fishing. It's wrong. It's called child labor. Compassion is there to protect you. You are children. You have your rights. You have your what? Right. Good. I will never allow myself to be taken to work on the lake. Say,
I will never allow myself to be taken
to work on the lake. Clap for yourself.
One day, we met the rain and the wind. We are calling out for God to guide us in. Then the wave crashed over us.
He has become a Lord, and now he's in senior high school. He wants to become a mechanical engineer.
I thank God that I'm now in Compassion. My sponsor name is Daniel. I'm thankful for his support. I want to struggle and achieve something so that my family will live a better life. Amen.
So as Compassion, they are not there to abolish child labor, but in a way, Compassion needs to help in the form of advocacy, because it is the right of children to be protected. More children need to be sponsored so that we can empower the children, so that they can also in turn impact others all over the country, so that children will be free and free forever.